This is All India Radio. In the program Spotlight, now we bring you a discussion on new Parliament building, aspirations of Atmanirbhar Bharat. The participants are Shekhar Iyer, political analyst, and Deepak Kumar Das, journalist.
After almost 100 years, the foundation stone for new parliament building was laid by Prime Minister today. In his address, he said that this will be a new testament for our Indian democracy, while also he said that India is the mother of all democracies. Shekharji, how do you look at the requirement of the new parliament and its significance?
Deepakji, this building is more than 93 years old, and this was constructed during the British time. Actually, the very concept of the parliament as it is today was not even conceived. In fact, the British came with this idea of devolution of powers. This was much before they agreed to grant full independence in 1947. So 1921, all these ideas started because after that idea of, devolving more power to the Indians, but without granting full independence. So it was originally conceived as a unicameral legislative council, not as we know today as Council of States and House of the People. So what has happened is over a period of time, the requirement has gone up. And because the requirement has gone up, both in terms of, two houses and members already sit in very squeezed spaces. And we know even the central hall cannot accommodate everybody, particularly when there is a joint sitting for the president's address every year for the start of the session. Now, and also since the building has got very old, there have been requirements for frequent repair work, maintenance work. And if you recall, the then Lok Sabha Speaker Meera Kumar had said that the parliament building is in pain. She had used the word in pain, which means it required a lot of expenditure just to where the roof is leaking. And subsequently, even Sumitra Mahajan, Lok Sabha Speaker, she also said the same thing, saying that the building is in deep distress. So I think considering all this, there were suggestions from both the Lok Sabha Speaker as well as the Rajya Sabha Chairman that it is high time we think of, because this patchwork repair will not do, number one. Number two, you see right now, there is a freeze on the increase in number of seats. What happened was, this decision was taken in 2011 rather. The first 25 years it was extended, that we will not increase the size of the parliament. Now subsequent to that, what has happened is, last delimitation saw the number of seats did not go up, so the individual constituencies were redrawn to see that each MP represented the same number of people. But now the time has come, when this expires in 2026, when we have for last 50 years, we have not changed the number of the, seats. So definitely there is going to be a possibility of the number of seats will go up. That means the number of MPs will go up when the next delimitation is done. So that will be in 2026. In that case, what we are going to see is that will require more sitting space. That is one. Also, the other problem is, today the modern technology has come where the members of parliament would like to have easy access to real-time data, which is very useful for them to participate in the debate and in the decision making. Now the new parliament will have the latest information technology, which will be integrated way that they can access any information easily. See, world over we have seen that new parliament buildings are functioning, which gives lot of facilities for the members of parliament. Now other thing is, in this new parliament house, every member will have his own office. Members of parliament would like to meet people from their constituency who would like to come and discuss the problems of the constituency. Now the current arrangement is, there is no arrangement for the members of parliament to meet their constituency people. Rather they meet them in their residences or in flats. So this is new arrangement where there will be working officers, there will be better documentation center, offices will be available, committee rooms will be there, because nowadays the committee rooms are divided between the main parliament building and the parliamentary annex. Now, there is going to be an improvement in the infrastructure and the facility. And also, this is a part of the Central Vista project. That is a 22,000 crore project where old buildings will have to be pulled down, which are not actually considered heritage buildings. Non-heritage buildings will be pulled down and new buildings will come, which will ensure greater synergy between various government departments and ministries.
One thing that Prime Minister also talked about, that this parliament will be actually built by Indian, and also it will highlight our Indian culture, Indian heritage. So in a way, Prime Minister is also trying to make a point that this will be a completely Atmanirbhar self-made parliament.
That's a very significant observation, because after all, this building which has seen a lot of history, right from the beginning it was constructed to the Declaration of Independence. And this building has seen the famous speech by Pandit Nehru in the midnight of August 1415. And also subsequently, prior to that, Constitution makers sat in this very building, the Central Hall. All the Constitution provisions were discussed, debated and adopted. But also we must remember, this is a building that was considered a part of the legacy left behind by the British. That building has a lot of our memories. Even for us as a parliamentary reporter, I have been witness to several events in this iconic building. But at the same time, you see, just as the old parliament building has served as well, but the new parliament is going to be ready, and the first session hopefully will be in the year 2022 when India completes 75 years. That is why Prime Minister said this building will be a symbol of India's own achievement. Indians will build this building and it will reflect the ethos of India's cultural diversity as well as also its cultural richness.
Prime Minister also talked about that this new parliament building that will meet the aspiration of India for the 21st century. So in a way he is also trying to make a point that actually this entire new building will meet all the future needs. And in the presentation what we saw, it was said that the building will have the sitting capacity in both Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha will go up by almost like 150%, and the life of this building will be at least 150 years.
I would say the test of a true leadership consists in anticipating the requirements of the future and to plan it from today. So we cannot wait till 2026. When the delimitation exercise happens, suddenly you realize that Lok Sabha strength has gone up, say, from 545 or 543. It has gone up to, say, some 800 something or even more, because there is a possibility of even 1,000 MPs. Now, only Lok Sabha. At that time, you cannot say, okay, we need a new arrangement and start construction. And besides, some things, if they are done early, the cost will also be low. And other point, I think what we must remember is, see, this building has a symbolic meaning as well as in terms of efficient systemic working. Because this is about improving the working for members of parliament, for the ministers, for the government, for the opposition, for everybody. Similarly, this building, the old building, they were managing quite well. But what has happened is it is getting old. So the choice before the government was, should we go on investing money in the old building or should we go for something since our requirements are going to increase? I think the ideal which the government has chosen is you preserve the old building for all its memories as an iconic building for its heritage value. At the same time, you create something which will fit with the general environment and the aesthetic sense of this entire capital. At the same time, meet your future requirements, because for this building is supposed to meet the requirements for the next 100 years.
Shekharji, Prime Minister talked about the democracy. He said that despite several apprehensions, how Indian democracy has not just thrived, it has actually shined in a much more expected way. And he said that talk about democratic system, he actually gave example of details from 13th century, 10th century to drive home the point that democracy in India goes back to centuries. He also said that India is the mother of all democracies. How do you look at this messaging at this particular time?
See, a lot of so-called experts, particularly from the West, have been saying that it is the West which gave India democracy. Even as the Prime Minister pointed out, there were some doomsayers right from 1947 who kept saying that India cannot hold together, that Indians will fight among themselves and our system will collapse. But they all have been proved wrong. Only is India has emerged from some of the major challenges right from the time of independence. But subsequently also, the way it has grown into a vibrant, strong nation of 130 crore people, it shows inherent strength of this country. Now, that inherent strength, the Prime Minister points out, because democratic tradition is enshrined in this very land. And India is not a model of successful democracy. India is mother of democracy. As you rightly pointed out, he mentioned that Anubhav Mandapam of Basappa, who is the founder of the Lingayat faith. And he said how Jan Sabha was created then, long back, where, people used to come, exchange views, discuss, and ideas used to be thrashed and put together. Similarly, he referred to that Chola inscriptions that is near Chennai, where he said it had talked of village panchayat and also talked of the eligibility standard for anybody to be a people's representative, particularly about their asset declaration. Today, any member of parliament has to declare his assets. That's an election commission guideline. But these ideas in some form or the other existed way back in 10th century. So the Prime Minister wanted to drive home the point. Let us remember, India is a democratic country, not just by its belief and faith, by its very DNA. by the very rich inherent tradition.
That's what he said, that
Process.
democracy is in our culture. I think that's what the larger point that he made. It's nothing that has come from outside. Actually, we have inherited for centuries together. If I take you to another point that he talked about, very interesting at this juncture, he said that we may have difference of opinion, we may have, differences on several issues, but the dialogue must continue inside the parliament, outside the parliament, where he, as you know, reached out to every section of political parties saying that our main focus should be to serve the country. And he said that, like Swami Vivekananda had said, that for 50 years we need to worship the motherland. Similarly, for maybe 50 years, our mantra should be India first. How do you look at this approach of Prime Minister, and what is the significance?
One of the most impassioned made by the Prime Minister to every citizen of this country, and more to people who are become representatives and who are serving in Parliament and state legislatures. He quoted from Guru Nanak Ji. Guru Nanak Ji had said that dialogue or samvad should continue as long as this universe exists, which means for the mankind to progress, dialogue is the way forward. There may be differences about which path to adopt, which policy to do, but apart from our political ideologies or our political philosophy, you may believe in anything. But the ultimate thing that should guide us, all of us, of any political color or hue, is that ultimate goodness of the country has to be kept in mind. Because we are here to serve the people. We are here for the nation first. So we may be in the government, we may be in the opposition, but our role, our objective is almost same. And that is, in a way, conveying to the people. What has happened is, you have seen in Parliament and outside also, there is a lot of strife. There is strife because of, it must oppose everything the government does. And that, I think, in a way, Prime Minister is signaling, look, what is to be achieved, but what is our ultimate goal? Can the goal of the government, the goal of the opposition be different? No, it cannot be different, because the objective is the nation must progress. Poverty must be eliminated. People's difficulties must be removed. This is the basic objective of any government of the day. And that should also be the objective of the people who are in the opposition. That is why he said, look, let us take pledge, like Vivekananda said in 1897, that for the next 15 years, rather rest 50 years, that is till 1947. Because at that time, Swami Vivekananda was not aware India is going to get independence in 1947. But nevertheless, he gave a clarion call. Let us be our objective, that we should rather do Aradhana, as the Prime Minister used the word, for India as conceptualized as Bharat Mata. We should dedicate ourselves towards her. And similarly, Prime Minister said, let us make a pledge that for the next 25 years, that is when the India celebrates a century, that is from 1947 to 2047.
Of independence.
By 2047, let us pledge that we are going to keep nation first. Let all our thoughts, let all our actions, let all our driving spirit be to see that let's national interest be first.
If we come back to the parliament issue, there are some interesting things in this parliament. This entire parliament will have, 3-4 components which are of national identity. The Lok Sabha will be on the theme of peacock. Rajya Sabha will be in the theme of lotus. Then on the top of the dome, we will have the national emblem. And outside the parliament, the courtyard, we'll have a people tree, which is again a national tree. How do you look at this messaging is being done in a big way? Actually, we are preserving or respecting every aspect of our national symbols.
Whether it is lotus or whether it is peacock or it is the national emblem, there is a deep spiritual meaning behind these symbols. India is a spiritual country. When I say spiritual, it means rising above our small self. And a very beautiful thing that the Prime Minister today mentioned was, look, a place is sanctified. That is why we have a tradition of what is called Prana Pratishtha.
Yeah.
Putting spirit into a stone. Now, what is that spirit that will put into a stone? Because Prana Pratishtha, when it is done to a stone, it becomes a deity for veneration and worship. But in this case, this temple of democracy, the Prana Pratishtha is not going to be done by any other means, but by how dedicated the members of parliament are going to be to their cause and to their work. That is why Prime Minister said the Prana Pratishtha will happen. That is, the spirit will be put into this building because it will no longer, because buildings are made up of stones. But an institution is made up of the energy and spirit that is put in by dedication, by hard work, and by commitment to make this country great.
Thanks a lot, Shekharji, for joining us. I think it was a wonderful day for Indian democracy, and we'll be setting an example for the rest of the world.
Thank you very much.
You were listening to a discussion on New Parliament Building, Aspirations of Atmanirbhar Bharat. The participants were Shekhar Iyer, political analyst, and Deepak Kumar Das, journalist. This program was produced and presented by the News Services Division of All India Radio. You can listen to it on our mobile app News on AIR. This program is also available on our website newsonair.com. You may email your opinion about this program at airnsttalks@gmail.com.